What do you say, everybody? And happy Independence Day. We're here, and we got new episode on the Cubs baseball channel for you, even on this holiday. But it is a baseball holiday. Everybody that loves baseball knows that you go to the ballpark on the 4th, you get your festive hat, hot dog, and beer, and you watch a little baseball. On today's show, though, we're going to talk about the Cubs and potentially upgrading at third base. And when you upgrade at third base, maybe you're going to upgrade at the same time as far as your bench is concerned. But a lot of the national writers are throwing out proposals, throwing out trade deals that they think that the Cubs might be interested in or could be talking about, including one that would have Alex Bregman, who the Cubs tried to get in the offseason, join the Northsiders. We're going to get into all that right here on the Cubs baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you for being here, and I hope you're going to have a great holiday. Let's get this going. Even you Cardinals fans, I hope you guys are having a great Independence Day, too, in third place. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs baseball channel. And again, thank you for being here. On the socials at Broadcaster Mick. Love hearing from you guys. Get in the comments. Do this on a daily basis as we work through this trade deadline, or at least what we expect to be a very active trade deadline for the Cubs. Now, it's only July 4th, and I looked up today because I remember July 4th, the Cubs made a deal in 2014. Do you remember this trade? Jeff Samardzija, Jason Hamill to the A's, and they got Addison Russell back in return. And Addison Russell, along with Billy McKinley and Dan Straley, they were all part of this deal. But it was Addison Russell that was the Cubs shortstop when they won the World Series. It was a big deal. Russell was a first-round pick. He was a very highly touted prospect, and he ended up being part of the Cubs World Championship team. So that trade helped them build to 2016. And the trade came early because Oakland thought they had a chance to win it. They did. They didn't, obviously, but they made that deal. They got some pitching back in return, and the deal was made today back in 2014. So who knows? The Cubs are trying to make some deals right now. Will they get one done? Jed Hoyer's trying, but the market hasn't been kind to him, and I think part of that is when you make a deal this early, you as the one that's pushing the trade, as the buyer, is going to have to pay more. And how much are the Cubs willing to pay? I've talked about it on a few videos here. I hope that doesn't include trading Owen Caissie unless you plan on signing Justin Tucker, unless you plan on getting a lot in return. You just can't give this guy away for nothing, right? And if you do and then you don't sign Tucker, then it's probably time to figure out an entirely new front office and new direction, because you've got to plan like this is a business, right? And sometimes you look around and you're like, how come we don't have a third baseman? We had one. We traded him, right? And then we traded another third baseman. And both of those guys are on the first place Astros, but the Cubs are in first. So I'm not saying that the trade was bad, but I'm saying that the Cubs are without a third baseman. And sometimes it feels like when these front offices, not just in Chicago, but all around, plan, they're not very good at long-term planning, right? So now what are we doing? Okay. A lot of talk about the Cubs upgrading from Matt Shaw at third base. Okay. I can see this happening. I've said it before. When I listen to Craig Counsell in his press conferences, I get the vibe that he wouldn't mind upgrading at that spot. I don't think he's given up on Shaw, but I think that it's the same thing that I said last time, is that they just want someone that is more consistent in that spot, whereas Shaw's really learning. He's doing some things well and then other things not so well. Would they be able to do this? Well, I think that it could possibly happen, and I'm going to tell you what some of baseball's best writers are saying, and then one trade that really knocked my socks off. And I guess I'll start with that one, and that is Alex Bregman to the Cubs for Justin Turner and Owen Caissie. That was Zachary D. Rymer of Bleacher Report. Now, I found this really interesting because here are the Red Sox. You go out in the offseason, you go and you sign Bregman, you wrestle him away from teams like the Cubs that wanted him, you pay him more money, and then it destroys your clubhouse, right? Because Rafael Devers was not real happy about being moved from third base. They never got back on track. You trade Devers to the Giants for some players. You get a good return for him. And now it signals that the Red Sox are kind of in retreat mode, looking to build for the future. I would, if I was them, Owen Caissie would be a great fit for me. Can you imagine Owen Caissie hitting the ball down by that pesky pole at Fenway Park? Yeah, and then he's got power the other way, hitting it off the Green Monster. He just kind of gives you that Fred Lynn type of vibe. And Fred Lynn, of course, one of the all-time great Red Sox. They always seem to have like the big poppies, the left-handed guys with pop. Yeah, pun intended. And so I'm sure for them, they would love to have the Cubs top prospect. Now, in return, the Cubs would get the guy that they wanted last year. That also would give them the ability to move star prospect Matt Shaw to a utility role. I don't think that they would send him back to AAA because I think he'd still be an upgrade from where the Cubs bench is right now. Never been a big fan of Brujan. I thought he played in spring training really hard, got his uniform dirty, but I don't think he's that good. And then John Birdie is John Birdie. I like him as a speed guy. And then Turner's old. There was a time when he was really good. He's done he's done some things well, had a game-winning hit this year. But at the same time, when you put him at first base, you're always worried about his defense. He can't play third anymore. He's great in the clubhouse, but at this time, having a guy that's great in the clubhouse, is that really helping your team when the margin right now, when all these games you're going to play between now and the end of the season is so thin? You want to have guys that can contribute. I don't know that they're going to trade Turner, but I would say that the bench is really soft right now and that the Cubs could use an upgrade. And so if you add Bregman, then, obviously the way that they play it, would be Shaw, and then maybe you build there as well. Now, the other part of this is the dollars and cents. And I don't know that it was Bregman that didn't pick the Cubs, that their deal was a year less from reports than what the Red Sox offered. So, I don't know that the money was any different, but it definitely was, as far as the amount of money that he got by getting the extra year. And of course, players want the extra year. I mean, that's kind of part of why you do sign. So are the Cubs ready to pony up the money for Alex Bregman? And I think that's the next big question in this deal. And, they obviously have money because, they cut payroll from last year, but they're getting a lot more from their team now. And you look at the team and you're like, okay, what are the things that we can do to make this team better? Obviously, third base could be an upgrade. And then the other thing would be the bench, right? Offensively speaking, I don't know that you really tinker with anything else, because I think that for the most part, even the catcher position, think about how productive that's been. And when Miguel Amaya went down, for the catcher position to just continue to hit is phenomenal for these guys. But are they willing to spend the money for Bregman? Now, there's a couple interesting things about the Bregman contract that I think are worth bringing up. First off, remember, he signed a 3-year, $120 million contract with the Red Sox in the offseason. But he's got Scott Boras as an agent, and he's also got an option to opt out of his contract at the end of the season. So if the Cubs traded for him, they would know that he can still opt out at the beginning, or at the end of the season if he wanted to, right? He's put up really good numbers, dealing with an injury, missed some time, but came back, and he's been pretty good. What would be left on his contract is $80 million in 2 years if he decided to opt in. And remember, with Bellinger, we thought he was going to opt out. He didn't, so the Cubs opted to trade him to the Yankees and send $5 million with him. I don't know that they would do the same thing with Bregman, but he got off to a great start, got hurt, came back, and he's still playing, pretty good baseball. This is one of the premier third basemen in the league, right? I think the other thing about Bregman that people really like is that he's a winner, right? And you already have Tucker on the team, and you already have Presley. Why not go and get another Astro that, knows how to win, right? You put him in the Cubs lineup, it would be pretty good for the Cubs. Just the idea of having Shaw that can play second. I think Shaw can play shortstop. I don't know if I'd put him there every day, but he can. And then third base, and then and obviously that helps you. He's got a lot more power than some of the guys that are on the bench right now. I'm not buying in that he's got to play every day to develop. I think that he's just got to be around the game to learn. And then maybe this guy opts out, and then, that's it. But by trading Devers, they got rid of like $250 million worth of payroll, the Red Sox, and they're taking a risk right now with Bregman. What if he opts out of their deal? then they get nothing, and so they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They're not any good. Got off to a decent start. They've fallen off a cliff, and now they're kind of looking at rebuilding. So the Cubs, according to Bleacher Report, could be interested there. Now, here's a list of names that were put out by Mark Feinsand of MLB.com. And I love some of these names. Ryan McMahon, Colorado. We know him, former All-Star, playing on one of the worst teams in baseball history. They've actually kind of rebounded a little bit in the month of June. They're still no good, but they're respectable now. They're not on pace to lose more games than the 1895 Louisville Colonels, right? Eugenio Suárez of the D-backs just hit his 300th home run a couple weeks ago. He strikes out a lot, but he's got a ton of power. Really good guy in the clubhouse. He's good. He's like a third baseman. It gives you some pop in the lineup, and then a guy that all you Cubs fans that are watching right now are going to say, you're going to say, hell no. I just know from reading the comment section. But Yoán Moncada, former White Sox, now he's with the Angels. I don't know that I'm with you on that. Of these guys that MLB.com put out there, I just think he's kind of the weaker of the three. I think if you gave me the choice, obviously Bregman would be the top guy. I think Suárez would be second. McMahon would be third. And then if you didn't get one of those guys, I mean, I don't know that you do this deal. But basically the Cubs need some teams to fall out of the race before they're going to be able to dip down and make some deals. And Jed Hoyer's been out there looking, but the market's really slow right now just because of the time of year that it is. And some of these teams are hoping that they get hot and catch fire, lightning in a bottle. Maybe Baltimore that won all those games for consecutive years and they were a contender. People thought I thought they might get to the World Series this year. They're terrible. So are they going to start trading? Are the Diamondbacks truly out of it? Or, could they make a run like they did a few years ago that got them to the World Series as a wild card team? So they're not willing to give up, even without Corbin Burns. You want these teams to fall out, and then they look and they say, hey, we got to make some moves here. And that's when, you jump in and get some deals done. But anyway, look, that's the show for today. Obviously, it is always fun when you show up to the ballpark like the Cubs are right now, and you're in first place. It looked like they were kind of falling off a little bit, and they've got two guys in the rotation that you can count on each and every time out, and that is obviously Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd, right? Then today you got the St. Louis Cardinals in town. What a matchup, Cubs and Cardinals. 120 game. Maybe some of you guys are watching this after the game, but at Wrigley Field, nothing better than Independence Day Friday and the Cardinals in town for a series against our Cubbies. All right, thanks, guys. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Pitching matchup today. I know you want to know this. And it's Colin Ray, 5-3, 4.37 ERA, pitching for the Cubs, and let's hope he gets the job done, gets back on track after struggling his last time out. All right, like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for being here. We'll do it again tomorrow. And from the bottom of my heart, guys, seriously, have a great, safe, happy Independence Day. Enjoy the baseball games, and go Cubs.